Audio on, so we're going to go ahead and roll that again. Welcome to the Galactic Civil War podcast for May the 4th. This is episode 1. We're going to be talking about our experiences, all about first experiences with GCW, whether it's going to be first experience as a staff member,
very cool
as a player.
little border made up on the YouTube.
We do. Yeah, we got transition screens and everything. Unfortunately, our first-time attendee player guest is unable to attend, so it's just going to be us today.
Yeah, the YouTubes.
And
I'll say now we have two different chats to be mindful of: the YouTube and the Discord chat.
yes, I only have the YouTube chat up on my panel here, so I'm not going to be. Well, I guess I got dual monitor. I'll be seeing both of them, but it is fine.
Yeah, I got YouTube on this monitor and then Discord right here, so I can narcissistically stare at myself.
Yeah. I mean, who needs to look at chat when there's beautiful dudes like this, bunch of totally not nerds.
Oh, if I click on myself, I'm big.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am I am Narcissus, and this is my pool of
Yeah, there
water.
we go. Welcome to the Mark Tolvain podcast. Oh, how do I get out of this? I don't want the center stage. There we go. Alrighty. So, first time events. What was everybody's first event? So I'm an original founder for the Galactic Airsoft Alliance, but I actually missed the first event, and Ambition's Toll was my first.
Really? Am I the only one here that was at the first event, Survivor's Endeavor? Guess right, Gad, you were. I remember taking a photo of you because I thought your color scheme was the coolest.
Yeah, and then I demanded that you put it on Discord because I was just basking in the wind because it was really hot in Mandalorian gear.
Up on that hill over the cantina.
I don't want to hear anything about heat until you run full Black Scout. All right, it was a cool weekend, and that was still rough. That was pretty rough. Black on black. Oh man, I'm just glad that Scout you can pop the visor open just a little bit and get some crosswind in there. That's a huge thing.
I guess I'll tell my story real quick. My first interaction with the event was I was introduced to the Discord by Raincloud. He had posted a little announcement, an advertisement you could say, in a kind of local airsoft server for West Tennessee at the time. Clicked on it, checked it out, and I remember I was talking, and it was actually Ben Carver himself who was just like chatting with me, answering a lot of questions. I checked on Google Maps the location of Bolivar, Missouri, saw it was 5.5 hours, and I tossed it around in my head. And just being a lifelong Star Wars fan and a lover of airsoft for years, I, in that moment, was like, I'm just going to go. I bought a ticket right then, having been in the Discord for like a solid 30 minutes. And the anxiety and preparation and excitement for that first event was just insane. And getting there and partaking in it and just seeing everyone else and feeling like these are my people. Look at all these other Star Wars nerds who showed up in cosplay with their airsoft guns to call each other silly names and just have fun. And it was awesome. It was great. The event has definitely matured a lot. It has grown a lot. That first event was so bare bones. A lot of people don't know we didn't have a class system then. We didn't have... I believe we did have med droids, but they worked differently, where they just revived you automatically, infinitely. There was personal shield generators you could buy. For like 500 credits, you wore a blue armband that gave you resilience. No questions asked.
And the armband had to be on.
So Mandalorians and aliens, who needed them, you know?
Yeah, that armband system was...
The economy was so crazy because we didn't know what we were doing. You could buy expensive stuff for cheap, and cheap stuff was expensive.
Yeah, what was the price of a blaster at
the Rebel experience was interesting because the factions were very skewed. I think we had about 25 Rebels and maybe 10 Imperials. And then we had like 20 Mandalorians, so it was just so... Bring back the 500 credit Medroid? No way. No way. I think everything was 500 credits. A Medroid, full auto. The personal shield generator might have been like 700. Dude, everything was so cheap. It was crazy. And I actually didn't know at the time the guns you bought you got to keep permanently, because on the wall Chris had put a, I don't remember what the blaster was, but I know it was an HPA'd M4 with, I want to say like a T20. I don't actually remember. And I thought that's cool, but you probably only get to use it for the event and then give it back, right? No, you got to keep it. So just the chaos, but in that chaos was definitely like just something special that has just gotten better and grown ever since. So
Yeah,
that's
and
my
even
story.
with, GCW in its infancy with that first event, looking back at some of the pictures.
Mark.
Do I have audio?
Muted?
Am I?
Mark, we cannot hear
Oh
you.
no!
Say,
Rain
I'll go ahead
Cloud
and-
is saying it was a
Check, check.
T21.
Can you hear me now?
There
Alright,
you
there
are.
you go.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
There you
weird. I wasn't muted, but I muted and unmuted, and it fixed it. What I was trying to say is, even like looking back at some of the pictures for that event, and how much GCW was in its infancy, it was still like leagues above some of the other Star Wars inspired events that were out there. Like it was very simple, but we hit the ground at a really high level compared to others. And I'm not talking trash on other events. It's just, I think we kind of came into it with a higher expectation of what we wanted to create, and the staff team back then and the staff team now, I think we're doing a really good job to create that. But yeah, the whole being able to buy a blaster and keep it, I don't think any other event, at least airsoft, I'm sure there's LARP events that you can do stuff like this, but I don't think there's any other like airsoft events that incorporate an economy that you can do that at. And actually, my first event I went to was Ambition Stoll. Like I said, I'm a Galactic Airsoft Alliance founder, so like I've been here since before the event, but I wasn't staff for that first event, and that's actually where I got this AAP. This is a blaster shop purchase, and that is just awesome. The players really, I mean, you can just show up to this event with no blaster, just a costume, and go and talk your way into some credits and leave with an actual functioning blaster. And I think that's awesome. That's really cool.
Right. Yeah. Who's next?
I'll go next. I was also at the very first event, so I don't recall exactly how long it was before the first event, but I was wanting to say it was pretty close to a year that I just happened across a post that 6mm did, and he had said something about an event that was going to be Galactic Civil War themed, and my brother-in-law and I had just got done doing a Jurassic Park themed airsoft event, and we thought that was just the coolest thing ever. And we were kind of already, I think a lot of people experienced that the last event. Once you play a themed event, that's kind of what you're locked into. So I jumped on that immediately, and of course the Mandalorian was out. It was pretty new at the time. I think it was maybe within its first year, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna make a Mandalorian costume. This is gonna be awesome. Had no idea what I was doing, really. Very minimal experience with making anything like that. So just throwing all that stuff together, and then just more or less spent the whole entire first event just walking around feeling cool, just walking around in Mandalorian gear. But the community was always really great. There's always been a lot of people that just want to be there and live in that world. And I think that's the thing that's drawn me back to it more than anything else, and wanting to go more and more into it and make props and bring things, is just trying to breathe life into the world, because it's just so much fun whenever you're there. I mean, you could just spend a whole weekend pretending like you're in a galaxy far, far away.
Well said.
Yeah, and it is a unique thing. I will say that regular airsoft is absolutely ruined for me, and I think a lot of the people on the staff team I've talked to,
gosh, yeah.
nobody can go play a pickup game on the weekends anymore. We're just like, this sucks, bro. Where's GCW?
And when you do go, you go in your Star Wars kit.
Yeah, and then you get absolutely dunked on because everybody's running their little high-speed shit and their modern tack gear, and there's no competition.
Language, sir. We gotta keep this G rated.
Yeah, PG. Star Wars PG.
Okay,
That was
we
our
can do
one.
PG.
That
That
was
was
our
our
one.
one.
That's our one.
You used it.
One.
You wasted it. You wasted it dissing airsofters.
I mean, there's only a few other things that would be better.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Airsofters are silly, and you kind of like once you get into this community, the airsoft community is just so silly. Even though we're the big nerds, the regular airsoft community just seems so weird now that I
Yeah.
just don't even bother to go play. I did it. I
I
did
think
a few
that's
times.
part of the appeal, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of the appeal of GCW is that, like, yeah, we know it's silly, we know we're nerdy, but we know it and we recognize it and we accept it, and man, we are having a blast.
Guess what? All 200 of the other people there are also just as silly and nerdy, and some of them take it to the next level. But you all start right at that base level of we're all weird nerds that want to pretend we're in Star Wars for the weekend, and that's a good place to be. It's a fun weekend.
Mhm.
Made some good
Artie?
friends. Yeah, Artie, let's hear your first time story.
Alrighty. Well, I had discovered GCW probably through a Facebook posting or something somehow, but after I had watched Balahak's Wild West Airsoft LARP event, and I really liked the stuff I saw in that, and then I saw this thing, and I was like, well, that's a genre that works for me as well. And oh, there's a game coming up in Wisconsin, which was Ambition's Toll, and so that was my first event, and so I followed the link as we hope they do, and I got into the server and introduced myself and was wondering, all right, where do I start now? And at that time, they were looking for NPCs and other such to help run the thing, and I had experience doing LARP adjacent stuff in the Society for Creative Anachronism, the SCA. So I was familiar with dressing up in nerdy costumes and stuff for a weekend and doing events. Making stuff for that. So it felt like a natural fit and a genre I loved as well. So I joined the NPC crew. And for my first event, which was its own thing of like, wow, so I'm already behind the scenes and on that deep dive into the game itself and helped facilitate things there and run quests as RD Ryder, the artifact collector. And naturally, things didn't go perfectly, but I found my place there and, uh, it became home. Yeah, so I have become attached to the GCW, and I am religiously checking in the Discord and answering questions and trying to help people and point in the right direction. And now I'm an admin, so I mean this is pretty darn cool. And now I get to see even more behind the scenes and help make things happen. So I'm very excited and looking forward to more events, especially the upcoming Battlefront milestone.
Now, Artie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you joined in and you joined the NPC crew, I assume that's a very different experience from being a player. So I'm curious to anyone that might be listening that's, maybe debating that route. What would you say it's like? Do you feel like you miss out? Do you feel like you get an entirely different experience? Can you just talk on that for a little bit?
Um, I think it's a great experience. It's not for everyone. The benefits of it are getting to help tell the story because as an NPC, the story comes first and other players' enjoyment and then yours. You are still going to have a great time. But when it comes to telling that story, our job is to put items in motion and stories so that the players can do them. We're not there to go off on our own missions and make credits for ourselves. So we don't earn any credits there. I mean, you get a few credits for your costume submission, and maybe somebody pays you to bribe you to do something like that, where it's there, but you're not out there seeking your own fortune. So the player and the story comes first, but you still have a wonderful time. But you get to help tell the story. You get to write some of those stories as you yourself have been starting to do there, Husky, with the new quests and stuff, making those happen. You get to meet a lot of people. let's say the drawbacks are sometimes if the help scheduling doesn't work out well, you might end up stuck in a shop the entire event, which might not be enjoyable, or you might love it because you have a consistent point of contact for people to come to you and see you. So, I mean, it's not always a bad thing to be in one place either. You can be a reliable place. Like I spent the first event and most of the second event in the blaster shop. So I like most players came and saw me and talked with me. It's so I'm selling the things. I get to see what's going on, talk to people. The story there, I didn't get to go out as much, but we're working on that for future things. But everybody get to meet everybody, get to meet all the factions there, and see how that game works there. So yeah, it's not for everybody. But if you like being involved more with the story and helping to tell things, kind of that entry step is the immersion player. We have that newer role that we had for Echoes Resolve there, where you are still a regular player. You can still profit off of the things you do in the game, but you have volunteered to put more time into helping tell the wider story. And so it's halfway between NPC and player, essentially. So it's kind of introductory there, and a lot of people who are really invested in the game can definitely find a place there.
Yeah, and I think that immersion player thing was pretty successful. Everything.
Mark, you're muted
Am I
again.
muted again? Oh.
In the meantime, I'll direct the attention onto Gadge. Now, Gadge, you're our resident Mandalorian. I think it goes without saying that is a very popular thing to be. That is a big draw for a lot of people. You know, the Mandalorian's a huge show. Mandalorians, they look cool. They are cool on screen. So, what would you say as the, I suppose, leader of the Mandalorian Enclave and now newest Mandalorian admin? What would you say to anyone who's considering that route or really wants to be a Mandalorian at GCW? What's that experience like? What advice would you give them?
I would like to say, first of all, I don't know if we were that loved going into the previous event, but I think we helped out a little bit. So it's just a very cool experience. I mean, obviously, everybody sees in the TV series and in the movies that they're these perfect soldiers. They can hit everything, take down whatever task it is, and then when it comes to us, I mean, it's a little bit. We can take the hits. We have a few extra hits in us, but our visibility is absolute garbage in those helmets. So we really need it just to be on the same playing field as everybody. But I think just being in the armor, for me, it is a really fun experience. It's a very hot experience. It's exhausting. Anybody who's put on all that stuff, I'm sure some of the stormtroopers, scout troopers can attest. It is
not for the
an
weak.
easy jaunt. So I mean, if you're wanting to put all that stuff on, it's going to be taxing on you. I mean, this last event, I was doing a lot more roles in the actual enclave, helping to run the sub faction, get quests out to everybody, keep them out moving around, just keep everybody busy. So I didn't see nearly the action that I saw before, but even before, a lot of what I did was kind of just existing and just interacting with people. Just being that silent gun at the back of the room is kind of just a fun vibe to be sometimes. Just in the cantina, you're just kind of chilling. But it's definitely a very fun experience. But yeah, just make sure if you're wanting to get into it, the biggest thing that I like to see is whenever people dedicate some time into their armor, because whenever we see that really nicely done armor, I mean, that's such a building point for our community. Is, I mean, whenever you see somebody that's just decked out in full armor, you're immediately immersed in whatever's going on. I mean, if it's just a night and day switch whenever you see somebody that's got a full kit going on. It's just a really cool thing to see. So anybody that wants to put in the time, the effort, love to see more Mandalorians. Love to be working with those guys. They're all really fun. Had a lot of fun last event, getting those guys running around.
Right on. All right, Mark, it's your turn.
Is my audio back?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay,
we can hear
there we
you.
go.
So,
Don't
Mr.
know what the-
Imperial Admin, Major Mark Tollivan, give us the Imperial experience and any advice or words of wisdom for anyone that's considering enlisting with the Empire.
I mean, what it comes down to is, Empire good, Rebels are a bunch of terrorist scum, and defund Mandalore. I mean, that's kind of that's it. There's no other choice, right?
Oh.
It's just Empire, right? Hey, Mandalorian.
You're
No,
not
no, I like
swimming.
Mandalorians. They're profitable, man. When you scoop up all their armor, melt it down, and it sells for credits, But no, really, the Imperial side of things, just like maybe the NPC or the Mandalorian side of things, it's not for everybody, because you are playing the standing army, and a lot of that is you got to stick with your squad. Like the Rebels, there's a lot more chance to go off and do your own thing. Or with unaffiliated, that's kind of like the name of the game, is just going off and doing your own thing. You don't really need to stick with anybody other than maybe the couple of dudes you came with. The Empire, right when we start, we divide everybody up into squads, and you're kind of expected to stick with your squad. I mean, you have the freedom to go off and, if you need to go into town and buy upgrades, hit the blaster shop or whatever, we'll give you that chance. But really, you are getting that, like, we are the occupying force, the military kind of point of view of the event. And you really got to be that, like, squad player, that team player. And if you got that mentality of I'm the main character and I'm going to go do whatever I want, even at the detriment of my own team, that's kind of, maybe Rebels or unaffiliated or a little more your play style, where you have that choice to go off and do your thing. But whenever you have just a squad of dudes in good kit and you're pushing through town in a good, like, formation, nothing looks cooler than that, like, that authority of the Imperial Army. It looks cool. And even for other players,
For sure.
last event, which you guys have been posting pictures of your kit in the chat over here on Discord, that scout trooper squad, when y'all just, like, moseyed through town together, that was so cool to see. And those guys were all first timers, man. They're all first timers, and they put that much effort into their kit.
And if I
so
may,
impressive.
to hype them up, my Rebels and I, we were on the edge of town, and when we saw them rolling up together, we got out of there. we retreated up the hill into the brush, because when you see that squad of scout troopers and those Imperials rolling in that big formation, looking tough, looking mean, you don't hang around. We hit the road and hid. So props to them. They really pulled it off well.
Yeah, those guys were impressive. They were impressive. They had some issues with radios, but that's the first time event kind of issues. Nothing big.
That's every event ever.
Yeah, so they kind of wandered
Radios are
off
the first thing to
from
fail every
times,
time.
but when they wandered off, they stayed in their squad, so they were still pretty combat effective. But yeah, those guys were, for first timers, super impressive. I want to see more of those kits. You guys did great. I hope that more groups of friends show up and do some stuff like that, because that was honestly awesome to see that many trooper kits. We got a lot of solid army kits nowadays, and those are great. Love army kits. One of my favorite kits. It's super easy to play in, super breathable, and honestly, it's kind of like the best kit for the Empire, if you're wanting to be effective, because it's just so versatile. You can get that plastoid with it. You can get that headshot immunity, but then you're kind of putting yourself in the same ballpark as scouts and Mandos, where you got to have your full face, the goggles, the mask, and all that, and you start losing some visibility and situational awareness. But just a basic army trooper kit with a helmet, that's a pretty powerful unit on the field, man. With that plastoid and being that mobile, you can be pretty combat effective, and it's kind of unique to the Empire. Some Rebels have gotten up there, but you kind of got to play with that thin line of looking like a rebel and then kind of like putting so much plate on you that you don't really look like a rebel anymore. But it is a good kit.
Right on. And I really think it's a testimonial to any potential first-time players that you can show up and be effective. Like, don't worry about, it's my first time, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what's going on. We have, all the evidence we need that people can show up for their first event and absolutely kill it, rock it, go hard, and really be a presence. So, it's awesome.
And something that's
And that Imperial
unique.
kit, that Imperial Army kit is so easy to put together. People don't realize it. It's the Rothko OD Green BDUs top and bottoms are like $60, I think, together.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And then if you got a 3D printer, the helmet and the chest and the back and blah blah blah. If you don't, hey, we have an armor shop where a guy will sell you the Imperial Trooper set for, you can haggle a little. You can probably get like 800 credits, and you'll have a helmet, chest, and back. And let me tell you, as an Imperial, you'll make that 800 credits in 3 pay periods. So by the end of day 1, okay, you got your armor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it takes so little to get that really good Imperial Army kit together. So it's almost like the perfect kit for a first time player.
Well, and even without the armor plates, just a day 1 character, I came in with no kit. If I just buy those BDUs and I go out and invest in an AAP, your mobility and comfort is going to be a lot higher than a lot of dudes. So even though you don't have that plastoid, you're probably still going to stand a pretty good chance because you're just going to be able to move around a lot faster than most guys. And that's kind of the cool thing about it is you can really come in for like a $200 investment, $100 on I mean, these hats here, they come in black and they come in green. These are $15 on Amazon. Get you a $20 Imperial belt, the $60 set of Rothko BDUs.
Right.
That's all you need. And a $100 AAP. That's all you need, man. And you'll stand a chance. Just because somebody's decked out in full Mandalorian gear, like this guy down here, he can't see you. I promise you, you come up in any angle other than right in front of him, you can get the drop on him and take him out as a brand new player. Now, if he sees you first,
That's why you have to
you're gonna have to battle him out. If he sees you first and lines up on you, that's a bit harder of a fight. But if you sneak up behind him, I promise you, you're gonna be able to move a lot faster and you'll come out on top. But that's the cool thing about it. The way we have everything set up is it rewards the people who put a lot of time and money into a really complicated kit, but not to the point where just because this dude dumped 3 paychecks into a kit doesn't mean he's gonna smack you at all times. It doesn't make people OP, and they're only as capable as their real life capabilities. And yeah.
Right now,
That
Mr.
and, I was just
Mr.
gonna say
Lester,
something else
you
to
have
mention
a,
with the starter kits
yeah,
is a pistol goes a long ways in airsoft. So I mean,
especially
people are worried
at
about
GCW.
especially a roleplay event. Nonetheless,
Yeah.
I mean, there's been roleplay events I've shot like 5 people.
Yeah.
I'm just going around talking.
These
So, I
AAPs
mean,
are like
you don't
the
really need to
official
buy like
blaster
a
at
crazy.
GCW, and they're $100. $100.
Yeah.
Mr. Lester, it seems you have some discontent amongst your security forces, thinking you underpaid them for their services. So I don't know if you're aware, but you may need to have a meeting amongst the Perla Corporation later on. They might unionize against
You
you.
that, but I did it in according to the document I was given. So because it was the going rate was the published rate in the guiding book was like 50 creds an hour or something, and so but unless that was not relayed in the thing, we'll get that figured out if that is an accurate.
I'm sure it was correct along with the rules. I'm thinking that they are realizing the Empire pays better in general.
Yeah, I think our payrolls were
According to the
like,
book, it's supposed to be the same as the
like
Empire.
200 every time we did payroll, and I think we did payroll every couple hours. So even then, you're coming out 50
Right.
creds
Yeah.
more an hour.
Oh.
So yeah, go
Pretty
Empire,
pocket.
boys. Go Empire.
Well, we'll
Yes,
have to
we
talk
need
about
more
that later, I
targets.
suppose.
So what? Can you tell us what a Perla Corporation security guard? Now you've only been at one event so far, but what do your guys do? What's it like? How's that experience?
Well, Perla is debuted at Echoes Resolve. The idea was to have a neutral faction in possession of the Market Square area specifically to ensure that players of all factions could shop without harm of getting murder hoboed. And I think we can all say there was mixed results. Overall, I think responses seem to say that general murder hoboing seemed to go down. That could also just be to the fact that this AO was very wide and spread out, so the player density was low. There were various large battles between rebels and Imperials, and it's kind of can the 10 of us even get in the middle of this, or should we, or how do we sort that out? And so that's a spot where things can be revised in the future, and maybe we'll enact stricter rules on what weapons you can have in town. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out at the next AO before we make too many major changes. Locations like Moston, where the market square is very small and tight knit, I think it'll be a lot easier to control and help ensure that people do indeed get a chance to shop without the fear of getting shot in the back. Because Perla, we're your partner in prosperity. Our job is to, ensure safe trade, and that's what the guards are there for. So yeah, our mission, we're basically corporate police for the idea of free trade. So we're not there to enforce imperial rules, but a lot of our rules are essentially in line with them. Perla does respect the Empire as the official government of the galaxy because we have to stay legal, to stay a corporation, to stay profitable. The local militias that drive conflict, which drives business. I mean, there is what people do on their personal time outside of town, not our problem, as long as they behave themselves within the market square. So that's how we view that. But if you're openly wearing a Starbird symbol and an ISC patrol comes through asking for assistance in rooting out rebels, yeah, our hands are tied. So that's how that goes. So that's part of your own RP, is making sure that if you're trying to play casual as a non-imperial in town, maybe you should play casual. Check those alliance symbols and whatnot. But so yeah, it's a very difficult task to walk that line of neutrality. And at what point do you say enough is enough and start gunning down people who are not following that? I mean, we tried to err on the side of being a lot more softer and lenient this time. We didn't want to be a second empire, right? So things can get revised later. I like to see how the rules play out at a smaller, more tight-knit AO before we make too many major changes. But yeah, so that's our goal there. Make sure the market's safe, be a neutral foil to various groups. Especially with the Hutts, we had amazing interactions with the Hutts because they are self-proclaimed outlaws, and so they didn't have much to do in town. But when they came to town, everybody's like, "All right, what are they up to? What up to?" Especially when the HK and them came to town towards the end of the event, and we all just looked up and said, "Oh no!" And before we could make any plans, they started blasting. So yeah, that was great. And when the ISC came through, it's like, oh, what are they here for? Boys, hold your. I'm gonna go talk to them. So being a director for that, you're definitely playing the heavy RP and doing the public relations, walking that line. Meanwhile, you got 9 trigger finger itchy guys up in the tower, looking over you, waiting to do something. So, and then when the pikes came, that was quite the sight, and the tense relations there, especially when there was plans to do away with them if they came back because they had tried to extort the town, and everybody was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's like, nope, these aren't the pikes we're looking for when they came, these other ones. So that was a crisis averted. But yeah, it's its own challenge walking that center line. But it's rewarding. I think the guys had fun overall, and we'll see how it goes there. But yeah, so it's a group. A lot of us just happened to be from the Minnesota, Wisconsin area this time. It was kind of funny. We all like, oh yeah, it's the Northern Alliance here. But it's definitely open to other players. We don't want to take away people who would normally play Imperial or Rebel because those factions need players. That's what I want to admit there is like, if you want to, lay down the law, be Imperial. That's their job. Ours is basically to babysit the market square, so the Empire doesn't have to. So I want to put that out there, because we don't want to siphon players away from the major factions. We are an addition. We take a mechanic and add to it. So yeah, but yeah, any other thoughts? Or we're definitely open to ideas.
That
and
is a
feedback on
hard
how
thing
we
to
performed.
do, is to add things to the event without
on,
subtracting from the
Right
mission.
on.
Oh my god. There we
I
go.
will say that having the neutral party in town is a good look because I think it makes it a little bit easier for the other players to be able to interact with some of the stuff going on in town. I know in the past events we've kind of went both ways with it, kind of either no man's land, but then it gets a little wild, or under one group's rule and then the other can't really interact with town. So having the neutral party is really beneficial, I think, just to let everyone experience what's going on in town.
Yeah. That was kind of
Right
something
on.
we tried to do at Ambition's Toll with the Mandalorians. They were kind of the town police, but what ended up happening is most Mandalorians were kind of, they weren't necessarily pro-rebel, but they were definitely anti-imperial. And anytime imps tried to go into town, there was just like 4 Mandos just gunning them down. So having an actual neutral faction that can actually remain neutral is going to be the way to go for this. And then your comment on you're not trying to replace the duties of the Empire. That's the fine line we got to walk when adding kind of any new group or feature to the event is how can this benefit the event without taking away from the core faction experience. That's a really hard thing to kind of
Right.
juggle, and we're kind of seeing that with some of the Mandalorian stuff. There's a lot of Mandalorians. Um, it's like how do we make the Mandalorians really good, but at the same time not be like the main focus. There's that balance where I don't want to turn Mandos away, and I want Mandos to be really powerful on the field. But when there's 30 of them, that can be an issue. And like same with Perla, if Perla is just Blue Empire, that can be an issue. But y'all seem to be doing a really good job of balancing that out. It's a really interesting feature so
I
far.
think that balance is something always we get that, especially like Rain Cloud. I know he works quadruple overtime constantly, trying to make sure things are good. But I know it's a delicate balance where you don't want anyone to feel like they are the main character. Like everyone's the main character of their own story, but you don't want it to be, oh, the rebels are the main faction. They're the good guys. Everyone thinks they're the good guys, but you don't want it to be where the rebels get all the fun stuff and everyone else is just there for them to fight. You don't want it to be, the Empire's the main faction and everyone else is just a nuisance. So I think it's a delicate balance of 'cause anytime you add anything to the event, you have to be mindful of what is it pulling away from. If everything's on like this four-way seesaw, when you add weight, you gotta be mindful of how that's gonna maneuver.
Yeah.
But I think Perla was a really good addition and might have brought more balance than imbalance, and I think that's always the goal.
I will say
That's
it
good
was
to hear.
it was a really like funny, awkward experience standing in town, talking to 2 Perla dudes, and then somebody with the Rebel logo goes walking by, and I spot it, and they spot it, and they look at me, and they're like, "Uh oh, uh oh, shit's about to start. People are about to start shooting, man."
Listen,
Yeah.
let me get ahead of that now. Let me get ahead of that now. As our resident rebel leadership, it was put out. We were told, listen, at this event, we'll have the Citizens Defense League, so you can go in town acting as a sort of protection against the Bolavos raids. So that way you can still wear most of your kit. Just don't be wearing any blatant rebel symbols. Don't be wearing the Firebird. Don't be wearing the Starbird. Don't clearly be a rebel. Don't show up with "Born to Rebel" across your helmet walking around in town. And I think that fell apart within the first 15 minutes, unfortunately, because I want to give credit where it's due. We had rebels that were putting tape over their armor to cover up paint. We had guys pulling patches that were sewn off. Their like guys' suit had sewn stuff on their hats and they were pulling it off. But then, for every 5 guys doing that, all it takes is one guy walking into town next to them in full rebel kit with the full rebel logos, and it's like, okay, we've lost all plausible deniability. So I think when you get a lot of that feedback talking about stuff like that specifically, rebels were allowed to walk around in town unbothered, and when the Empire would do what the Empire ROE says to do, which is shoot rebels on sight, all of a sudden they look like the aggressor to someone who was just part of the militia patrolling for Bolavos. So it's it's a delicate balance, and again, it's something new we've done. I think previously the rebel doctrine was to have a full body poncho, be fully obscured and the Citizens Defense League was an attempt to move away from that and kind of give us a little more breadth of room to maneuver. Mixed results. We'll see what happens. Given how things went at the event, I don't think it would be a surprise to anyone if an announcement was made that the Citizens Defense League was found to be harboring known outlaws and terrorists and henceforth has been disbanded. And so now we're back to wearing these full body ponchos in the heat. But that's the beauty of the event, where every action has a consequence. Nothing you do exists in a vacuum. If I'm Johnny Rebel, and I'm not specifically the guy in the server whose name is Johnny Rebel, but if I'm Joe Rebel and I walk into town with Born to Rebel, Kill All Imps, and the Starbird on my chest, and I tell Perla guys, oh, I'm Citizens Defense League, and then I get into it with the Empire, that has a snowball effect down the line. So I think that's something that will be very interesting to see how it goes forward. Unfortunately, we can't force everyone to listen to the briefings and read the op words, but we do what we can. And I think even when we have minor setbacks, I don't want to say failures, even when we have missteps like that, it just leads to a more interesting event. Because, okay, now what's going to happen? What is the Empire going to do now that there's a confirmed large rebel presence on this planet? So I think it'll be very interesting going forward. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where my comment on when I was talking about the Empire faction, where, like, we're a standing army. If you're going to be Imperial, you need to be willing to follow Imperial rule. And that applies to Rebel as well. It may be a ragtag group, but they are still an organized force. If you're going to be a Rebel player, and Rebel Command says, hey, if we're going into town, we are not to show off our insignias, you really need to kind of listen to your command. And yeah, I mean, if that means, like, hey, if Rebel Command all wants to pitch together and, get a bunch of cheap ponchos and y'all hand them out as loners at the beginning of the event, tell people, hey, cover up your insignias. Because if it's out in the open and the Imperials spot it, and the rest of your squad may not be able to actually defend you, or, Perla's going to stand aside because that's legal activity. You're going to get shot, and it's just not going to be good for you. Might be a path worth going down. But, yeah, I kind of like the vibe of this isn't necessarily the era of open rebellion. There's still a lot of covert stuff going on. So the rebels, it's really not in y'all's best interest to just be loud and proud about being a rebel, especially if you're kind of just trying to walk through town and get things done. It might be worth covering those insignias up and not necessarily broadcasting to everybody that, hi, I'm here to fight the Empire.
Yeah. So I guess I'll speak on that, and I'll actually give some insight into the Rebel experience. Something we've been trying to do a lot more of within the Rebellion is the stealth and subterfuge, not just go out there and fight the Empire, because while that is our goal, we're not quite at that level that you would see in Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. And sure, well, we do those things because it's an airsoft event. There's no death permanence, so we get a little brazen. But at the same time, we want to have that fun experience of, hey, we need to do this and not get seen. We need someone that can sneak and accomplish this objective and have that kind of very tense feeling of hiding behind a wall as an Imperial patrol goes by, or having to sneak through a checkpoint without getting caught. We want to do more of that stuff because I believe it was Mr. Shea, one of our newly promoted lieutenants, whose first name, I'm sorry if you're listening, I still can never pronounce correctly because I forget, so I'm going to henceforth refer to him as Kane Shea because that's how I know it as. He himself made a post just basically saying to any new rebels or even some returning ones, before you pull the trigger, consider, how does this affect my mission? How does this help the rebellion? What is being accomplished by doing this? Because there is a major snowball effect for us where if we spend the entirety of day one just shooting every Imperial we see, then when day two comes and we have to sneak for a mission, all of a sudden that is so much harder because you guys are on high alert. It's almost this like
and imaginary we start to recognize kids, where at one point you may be kind of vague who you are, but I remember yesterday You shot me with that
Yeah.
group of rebels. I now know you're a rebel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's action to have consequences. People will remember you. The things you do stay with you and your character. So, people are going to remember the rebel with tan pants and an Endor poncho. You know, so don't just go shooting everybody, because while it may not affect you personally, there may be a rebel squad that's trying to get something done. You know, think of it as if the entire faction has heat. You're turning up the heat for the entire rebel faction. So I think we want to cut down on some of that. I'm a rebel just standing around. I'm going to shoot these guys walking by me, and really increase on some of that moment of laying against a tree in the woods and just thinking, God, I hope they don't see me or this mission's blown. I can speak to my own experience at Echoes Resolve, and to any rebels say, I think some of the most fun I had was when people were hunting me down, chasing me, or just patrolling through an area, and I was hiding, and I said, I'm not going to engage. One, because they look like a tough target. Again, shout out the scout trooper guys. You guys walked by me like 3 times, and I was like, I'm not shooting a shot because I'm gonna get, I'm gonna get tuned up real quick. And I had so much fun in those tense moments of, God, are they gonna find me? If he takes 2 steps to the right, I'm blown, and this whole mission's gone. So you can have so much fun just not taking the shot, just thinking, all right, let them pass by, and I might get a more advantageous position later on when my squad reinforces me. So it's really something we're trying to push forwards and encourage within the rebel player base. So, if you're listening, you think you want to be a rebel, I would say, hey, come stealthy, come quick, come ready to do some subterfuge and some cool stuff. We're always trying to get more role play within the rebel faction, because I feel like a lot of guys are quick to pull the trigger a lot, and well, that's not inherently bad. We do want to be able to role play. I had the very unique opportunity that was awesome as a rebel to role play face to face with Imperials, because I was playing a different character, but that character was still rebel aligned, and I was just being able to try and talk my way out of it, or sneak my way out of it, or what's that over there, and then just dip. So, and again, you don't need to have the gift of gab. You don't need a silver tongue. We're all role players. We're all a little cringy. We're all a little socially awkward. Don't think, oh, well, I'm not a fast talker, so I'm not going to be able to do this. It's role play, dude. We're all just here having fun. No one's going to be like, you stuttered on that sentence, so I'm sentencing you to death. Just have fun. Be willing to talk. Be willing to engage. Don't shoot first, unless it's your mission. I think a lot of people didn't realize. They'd say, well, he shot me for no reason. I had a reason. You just don't know the reason, because I'm not going to go over there and give you a debriefing on why I shot you. I have a mission to do. Sorry. Not sorry. So that's some insight into the rebel experience. We're not the main characters. We're not the good guys. If you ask Rebel, they'll tell you they're the good guy. But if you were to take a step back and look at GCW as a whole, Rebels aren't the good guys. And I think recent media has done a great job of portraying that with Andor and Luthen and the things we see him do, and Saw Gerrera and the things we see them do. All these guys are rebels fighting for a same cause. There's a quote I think about often when people accuse the rebels of us being bad and villainous and doing bad things, and it's just when Luthen says, I made my mind a sunless place. So it's like, yeah, we tell ourselves we're the good guys, and we have to do bad things to accomplish that, and that's what makes it really interesting. That's what makes it a lot of fun, is if you let yourself get into character, thinking to yourself, how can I justify killing these people? How can I justify, doing this thing? How does this further my cause? How can I justify this to myself? And that's where the fun comes in, man. When you buy into it, to any new player who's thinking roleplay's cringe, LARP is lame, give it a chance and buy into it. Show up and realize, hey, we're all LARPing too. We're all role-playing too. Buy into it, and you'll get so much out. And you'll be like, that was the coolest crap I've ever done in my life, and now I'm never playing regular airsoft again, because it wasn't worried. If we're Imperial, I'm being told just don't view them as people, and you don't get justify killing them. And hey, hey, that's perfectly valid too. You know, be an alien racist and say you don't think aliens are sentient, so killing them doesn't matter to you.
That's hilarious.
Oh no.
So I said, Mandalorians,
there's
they're
a
just
question in the
walking
chat.
paychecks. Like I said, you can melt down their armor and
Yeah.
it sells for a lot. That's good alloy.
There's a question in the chat I want to relay to you guys, talking about roleplay and combat. What was something that happened to you in game that initially might have made you mad, but looking back on it, you saw it as good roleplay? For me, it was when it was at the first event, I was defending the base and some Mandalorians came through. Just saying that they were just here to look for someone and blah, blah, blah. They'd be out of here soon. Playing nice, but Mandalorians don't roll into a faction base just to hang out. So it was very clear they were looking for a bounty. And, myself and this Mando had a quick little back and forth. He had 3 guys supporting him. I had a few rebels that were mostly not ready for combat because, base security doesn't matter, I guess. And that interaction ended in a shootout where, I took out a couple of them and they took out the rest of us. And luckily, some other rebels were returning to base and they came through and cleaned up and took care of the situation. And at first I was like, man, these guys are a bunch of jerks. They came into our base and shot us and they lied to us. Why were they lying to us? Why were you lying? But then I'm thinking about it and I'm like, that's something that would never happen if I just went to, an AMS event. No hating on AMS, but that's something that doesn't happen. You don't get to talk to a guy and have that slow, tense build up where it's going to end in gunfire. You're just waiting to see who's going to pull the trigger first. So looking back, it's probably one of my best JCW memories. And Matt, the Storm Wizard, if you're listening, hey man, that moment was still like amazing, dude. You were awesome. So what about you guys? What would you say if you have a similar moment?
Say, I don't know if I've had anything I've necessarily got mad about. I'm a really easygoing person. It takes a lot to get me riled up, but just at the last event, sort of one of our final things we did in the day, we were trying to make a push on a base, and it just so happened that one of the Imperial ISC Juggernaut suits had stopped working, but the guy didn't know that it stopped working. So he ended up taking out like so many of us, just mowing us down. But like, I'm sure from his perspective, he just had an awesome time. He was just like, I was the final one making the stand. But like afterwards, I went up to the guy and I was like, hey, your suit's not working. And he's just like, oh man, I feel like a jerk now. I probably ruined that for all you guys. So I mean, it was I'm sure it was an epic moment for him. But yeah, that's probably the only thing I can think of that was really frustrating, because we were like trying to, push our like this last objective, and it was just like we all just mowed down by this guy.
Right. It's a good reminder to give people benefit of the doubt. If you think someone's cheating, they probably aren't. They might just generally not know that something's wrong. So it's a really good reminder of stuff like that. What about you, Arthur Lester? Have you, as an NPC, you might not have something similar, but I'm sure you can think of something.
The only frustrating part I had the last event was the last 5 minutes. People were trigger happy. We were still trying to be in character, and these unaffiliated and whoever else were like, we want to kill stuff. And so they came into the base, did stuff, this, that. There's bombs going off. They're somehow talked their way or walked their way. Security was trashed. They got up into the top of the tower. So we're up in there like 2 feet from each other trying to pop around corners. And we're like, what are you doing here? Why are you? But it's like, it's the last 5 minutes. They just needed something. These last moments, they're not canon anyway. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just ignore it. Move on with life. They just wanted to actually shoot something. So I'm over that totally. But that was, they like, in the moment, like, what is going on, you guys? But the other moments I think were like cinematic in that shoot or no shoot question. Like I had some great moments with Crick of like, he is the leader of the Outlaws and I am the like acting leader of, the neutral defense stuff here. And
shout out.
There was, yes, that is amazing. He's been doing great. We love your hut, guys. You guys are amazing.
I'm sure we'll have Crick on here
each other.
Yeah, we'll have Crick on here
definitely. But going with that vein there, on day 2, we had anticipated at some point that somebody was going to try to raid the payroll. There was a box in the main base of Perla that was the payroll, and multiple factions were available to get it, but we assumed that the pirates would probably be the ones to do the mission. And they were. We happened to be escorting Inspector Sky to check out the new Bacta Clinic area, and at that time there was the Imperial Walk was coming through, so everybody is over there. There's way too many people over than there should have been, making sure he's safe, and this is going on. And then we hear over the radio, guys, the payroll is stolen. They're running towards the cantina. It's just, oh. And I looked up and happened to see him running over the hillside. So I ran around there, and apparently the kid, he couldn't hear anything happening downstairs because the wind was loud. So he didn't know what was happening. It's just the perfect cinema thing stacking up, and his gun jammed when he saw him running. And so I go barreling over the cliffs into the trees, following Crix down the trail, and one of the other hut guys is back, and I think he's coming. I'm in the middle of this, pop a few shots that way, nothing comes out, didn't think of it, just thinking I couldn't see my stuff. Following Crix down, lined up perfectly in the trail, pop, 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 nothing comes out of my blaster, because apparently I had BBs jammed in the top of the magazine. But it's one of those, like, tried to do a thing, and then get him later, fix it up. He's sitting on top of a ridge. He no longer has the box in his hand. So it's like, where'd this go? He's sitting on a ridge, staring down at me. I could blast him, but why? Why blast him? There's no, what am I going to get out of killing him right here? Because if he's dead, he's not going to tell me where the treasure is. If he's bleed out, he's got no reason to tell me where the treasure is early, either. And it's this beautiful silhouette of, like, I can't see anything behind the ridge. I just see him staring down at me. He is in the position of power at the moment, and just going with the moment of, I don't need to shoot him. We hit the deer and we talk it out. I was like, oh yeah, maybe my guys are around the corner, and like a couple minutes later, they happen to be around the corner and come around. So I could have got wasted even if I did take him out. Like, well, I'm not gonna get anything out of this here. And then we did a little walking on back there, and it's that finding those moments there of, like, there's no reason to shoot, even though I have him dead to rights right now. The moment and the discussion is more important and more meaningful to all of us, and hopefully that comes out well on the footage. We had to have a body cam on a couple of us. And then later in the town too, when they had their HK raid, I see him draped over a barrel, bleeding out, and I'm taking care of my own issues. And then later I see him somewhere else, bleeding out, and I walk up to him and I'm standing over him, and now I'm in the power of position. And but I'm not going to finish you, because why? Because if I cut off the head of this thing here, then who else is going to fill the gap, right? Like if this is the devil I know, I'm going to keep him in a place so I know that his boys listen to him. And finding that, that little dichotomy there, that flip of, like, yeah, I could totally, finish you, but why, right? It's just these things that are meant for the screen. There's an agreement of, all right, you call the boys off, the crew, and we can all go home tonight. And that's what happened, and so I revived him, blah, 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 moved on. And it's finding those shoot, no shoot movements and picking the RP over the sending someone back to base, so.
Crix is the luckiest person ever. He might actually be force sensitive.
Talking to him, that moment was like one of his highlights. I talked to him a couple days ago, and he told me that story from his point of view, and that's like one of his highlights of the weekend. So y'all had a really good interaction.
Yeah. But to anyone listening, that could happen to you. That could be your moment.
Yeah,
it doesn't carry a gun that jams on you when you need it, and you might have to talk your way out of a situation.
No, not that part. The Crix part could be you. Go steal from Perla. That's the lesson to take away.
Steal
here.
from Perla.
There you go. Give us something to do. Give us a justified reason to shoot you. I mean, we can all have fun, I suppose.
Yeah,
but
they're gun.
In that wild Perla moments is while I'm out there in the middle of nowhere, because the other guys are managing other things, I am the only one who knows where he went. The rock is the rock, so radios aren't communicating properly. I am by myself in the woods with this guy, trying to figure this stuff out, and I'm walking back to town like, all right, where's the box? He dropped it somewhere, so I go looking for it. The other guy's there, so it's cat and mouse of trying not to get blasted and left for dead in the woods. And then I hear in my ear over the radio, the inspector is down. I'm like, what? What happened to Inspector Sky? After I hear, some EGs going off, and then the inspector got blown up. I'm like, oh, so he's done. Well, Wow.
Can we get
Well,
Inspector
I'm out
Sky to
here.
talk about what happened to
Yes,
Inspector Sky?
that'd be great.
I'll have
Yeah, so
to get
I don't
ranked
see
out
anything
on him.
happening there. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I am
Mhm.
feeling the toll of my ambitions right now. I feel like Cyril Karn. I have overextended myself. I have messed it all up. I'm in the middle of nowhere. And I'm just like, what do I do? I'm so
Did your
screwed. And my guys are out
yeah.
there. They're dying. They're like a 5-minute walk away minimum. There's nothing I can do to save them. And I'm out here trying to find a payroll, which I don't find. It's that, and all of you have a chance to have moments like that when you invest in a story and go out there and do stuff there. It's just this like this moment of and you're feeling so in character of how screwed you are. But you know, at the end of the day, we're all gonna laugh and have a campfire talk about this stuff there. But just in the moment of wow, this character is screwed. And so, yeah, you'll see what happens next time. Perhaps Arthur goes on administrative leave. Maybe he comes back fired. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But there's options there. It's
Was
great.
your resolve
So,
like echoing out into
yes.
the field?
Yep. The grasping my fate of what do I do now? Yeah.
Careful not to choke on your
Mark,
ambitions.
do you have any moments?
Yeah, so I don't really
did.
I can't really recall anything where like in the moment it made me mad and then I like look back on it and I'm like, oh, okay, it was pretty cool. But I do have back during the last Mouston RP, the Empire had an issue with payroll. The way we were set it up, it just wasn't set up well. Imperials weren't getting paid enough. They were making like pennies to everybody else's dollars. And that was kind of like one of the big complaints for the Empire. That event is just there was no way to like realistically compete with the other factions making credits. So we had a lot of issues with Imperials kind of just wandering away from their duties to go and make money because we weren't paying them right. We just didn't have the plan for it. I mean, for perspective, this was our second LARP, so it was a lot better than the first one at the Rock, but it was still just our second one, so there was still a lot of stuff that needed to be worked out.
I think the live just ended. I think our YouTube live just ended, Mark.
Uh-oh.
Sorry to interrupt.
Check that.
Yep.
Oh no.
Or maybe not. I don't know. For me, it ended and
don't
went to a
see
different video.
No way.
Let me...
Someone comments. No way.
Yeah. Perka.
I just refreshed mine.
Sloan just renamed you to the Perka Corporation.
Okay, there you go. No, it still looks like it's good. I think you might have had a connection issue.
My apologies.
Yeah, just ruining my story. Gosh.
I'm the worst.
Anyway,
Typical rebel.
moving on. There were problems on the event coordinator side of things with Imperial pay, and Imperials were getting upset, and they had to break off to go make their own money. And did it make being Imperial leadership frustrating? Yeah, it did. But I actually got roped into some of these non-sanctioned shenanigans that these Imperials were getting into. And at one point, me, an Imperial, and a couple of outlaws were inside this RV meeting about some sketchy ways to make money. And all of a sudden, we hear a lot of commotion outside. And, like, we peek through the blinds of one of these dilapidated RVs that we were, like, playing off as, like, a crashed ship that we were hiding in. And
but you mean a shuttle?
A shuttle,
right?
yeah, it was a shuttle. It was a Bofa class battle RV. Yeah, is what we called the one we went on a trip in.
A mobile habitat shuttle.
So we peek out the window, and like the entire Imperial faction goes marching by, and then there's just a red lightsaber goes walking by, and it was Justin's wife in her Inquisitor outfit, and this is when she went and battled Raincloud dressed as a Jedi. And that was just like everybody be quiet. Because we're doing things, like we're Imperials, but we're doing things that are not Imperial sanctioned at the moment. And there's an Inquisitor marching right outside the door. So like that moment of like, we weren't doing what we were supposed to be doing because of some really frustrating things that were happening with the event. But because we did it, there was that really cool story to like look back on. Like we were all, like there was no actual danger, but like, in that like that RP scenario, we were all like really nervous, like, oh, if Justin and his Inquisitor wife find us, we might, get smacked with a plastic lightsaber for this. It was cool. It was a cool situation born out of a frustrating situation, and I guess that's my version of that.
Well, we have another great question to continue on this line, which was, can any of you remember a moment from GCW when you were new that immediately got you hooked? Like, what was that moment for you where you were like, wow, I'm in Star Wars. This is awesome. I'm coming back. I know it's a tough one to remember because it's been some years for most of us, I think. While y'all think, I will go first because I immediately remember what it was. I've told this story to a lot of people, but it was, again, Survivor's Endeavor, first event, beginning of day one. We just started. We were split into squads. I was leading Echo Squad, and we were told that we were going to trail behind, I believe it was Rogue Squad. We were to trail behind them a fair bit and provide QRF and backup if they need it on their mission. And it's hard to describe the path at the Rock, but there is a wooded path that leads from their little base all the way south to the far Badlands. And we were just sneaking through this area, and we come over this berm, and we're, like it's this tall berm. We come over, we peek over, we see Rogue Squadron far ahead. We're telling them, hey, you're good to go, keep moving. And we're coming over the berm, and we're hiding in these trees. And as we're coming down, I signal to squad of cops. I'm hearing people walking down the path, probably 10, 20 feet in front of us. And we're sitting there, leaned back, hiding in the trees best we can. And a squad of unaffiliated outlaws just walking by. And I'm just like, this could go any number of ways because, again, I'm brand new to this. GCW is brand new. This is the first hour of the first game. So my stream keeps, I don't know what's going on. People are reporting it is lagging pretty bad in chat.
Ooh, not.
Let me see if it comes back.
I'm not sure I have a whole lot of control over that. I am getting a warning about speeds, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, first hour, the first day, so I have no idea how this is going to go. They walk by once, and we're waiting for the signal to move forward and take Rogue Squadron's old position. And as we're getting ready to move, those same outlaws come walking back, except the one at the far back of the pack deviates, and he starts walking up the hill right towards us. And I'm thinking, I'm about to shoot this guy. I don't want to shoot him. I don't, he's unaffiliated. He's not an Imperial. But if he walks up on me and I let him go, he might go tell his outlaw friends, hey, there was a squad of rebels back there. And in that moment, those outlaws might go tell the Empire, or they might decide to come kill us and see if we have any loot. So it was a super tense moment where he's walking up, and I've got my gun on him. I'm telling my squad, hold your fire, just wait and see what he does. I think he probably walked 5 feet in front of me, looked up, looked right at me, and I'm thinking, God, I don't want to kill him. I don't want to shoot him. I don't want the first person I shoot at the Star Wars event as a rebel to be a random guy. I'd hate to start my career off as a rebel with murder. And so I literally just went, put my finger on my lips and waved him on, and he went, okay. And he went back down the path and rejoined his group and kept walking. And in that moment, I thought, holy crap. That was so cool, and nothing really happened. And from that moment, I was like, I'm a freaking rebel, dude. This is so cool. And then, of course, we moved on. We got into a fight with actual Imperials. And I was so giddy with excitement. In every photo of me, I'm big cheesing. I'm smiling so big because I'm having the best time of my life. So that was for sure my moment. Any of y'all want to talk about the moment you were hooked?
Real quick, I'd like to point out a funny comment, though. Somebody had said that they'd be fine with getting smacked by Jerry Lee's lightsaber. Thought that was funny.
Wow. All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot, Yaj. What got you hooked?
Yeah, so I was trying to think of what it was. I mean, honestly, just being immersed in the world is the fun part to me. Pretty much every event I've tried to, like, whether it's just at night hanging out with people or during like night games whenever it's not quite as serious, just being able to interact with people and just kind of mess with them a little bit. Like I run like Dungeons and Dragons games, so I'm a huge nerd already, and I like to do like the game mastering side of things. So whenever I can have that experience with people, but more in like a real world scenario. I find that really interesting and really fun. Um, there's been a few different scenarios, but just one of them that I can think of is whenever I think it was the Battlefield Boulevard event, I think. But I know it's not really a role play event, but I was asked to be one of the Bolvosi, and I was like, "What do I need to do?" And they're like, "Just act like one of them, shoot these guys, all that, whatever." So I went full send on it. I was out there just screaming in the hills, echoing through the quarry and everything. And I talked to some of the guys afterwards. Like one of them finally downed me. They came over to like take my tags away and everything so they could get the thing. And one of these kids like was like, I'm genuinely terrified because I was just like screaming from the mountains, and then I'd start shooting at them with my minigun and stuff. But just being able to interact with people and build that world. I mean, it's so great to me to just be able to play around and do all these different things in this scenario and make it come to life.
Right on.
So from the second I was able to do that stuff, I was like, this is good stuff. I like this.
Right on. Mark
Yeah.
or
Arthur, you go ahead.
whoever.
All right, I'll go super quick. All right. Anyway, yeah, I think it's not a defined moment, but just being able to build your own character and place it in the world that you know and love. So walking onto that Ambition's whole field of, hi, I'm Artie Ryder, the artifact collector. I have no idea what's going to happen next, but I'm trying to help tell this story, and I'm a point of contact for sales, and then just getting the vibe. And then people talking to you like you're in universe, and right there, you're like, yep, I'm in. This is great. I can do this. And stumbling across things that are unique to us in our game, like the Bolavos, that fit in the universe but aren't part of the accepted canon stuff, right? This is our own little world, our own little thing. And finding people chasing that little thing and like a particular artifact, and the story that goes along with that particular artifact, and how that went, and seeing that story develop. And that's one of the things about our game is we have things that are exclusive to different locations. Like the Bolavosi are primarily part of Bolivar, and then we have other underground groups that are primarily part of Moston. The Gaber Worm thing for Rieger. Each place has its own little thing to go to and cling to. And so finding that thing that sparkles for you and clinging to that and helping tell its story, or just chasing it down and seeing what the players do with it, or as a player, what are you going to do with this thing that you have no reference for in the accepted canon, and making your own story out of that. So yeah, making your own story.
Right on.
Yeah,
Right
so
on.
mine is actually kind of a continuation of the last
The artifact.
last thing I
can
talked
tell
about.
that Rain Cloud is going to be a great guest to have on this little podcast with how active he is in the chat, responding to some of the things you mentioned about the artifact.
I can't see the YouTube one anymore, unfortunately, because my laptop died. But I'm sure there's plenty to say. But yeah.
Yeah. Mark, you're our final one. What was the moment that Major Mark Tolvin thought to himself, "Yeah, this is it. This is what I wanted"?
So it's actually a continuation of the last story I was telling. That meeting that we were having in that shuttle with the outlaws that we were linking up with. It was them giving us some intel on valuable possessions the Mandalorians were hoarding in their base, their conclave. And later that night, the Imperials that were a part of this little scandalous scheme, we were tasked with hunting down escaped prisoners. And the plan is once that started, we were going to kind of like, oh, we saw some people run this way, and we were going to take off into the darkness and go and just rob the Mandalorians in the middle of the night. And we weren't able to immediately branch off. And I remember we spotted some dudes running in their little prisoner pajamas, and I come through. It was me and I don't remember who all was there, but I remember I think one of the people that was right behind me was Dax in his Inferno Squad kit, but I don't think he had his helmet on at the time. And we come around the corner, and there's just this prisoner with a Jawa ion blaster just in the corner, cowering, and just squeals at the top of his lungs as we like breach the corner. And he pulls the trigger, and just nothing comes out of his gun. It was just like the ultimate like moment of panic for him. And we ended up taking him into custody, and I think we link up with the rest of the Imperials, and we kind of like, yeah, here, take this prisoner back to base. We saw another one, and we ran off into the darkness, and we ended up making our way to the Imperial, or the Rebel, oh my god, I'm just naming every wrong faction, the Mandalorian Conclave, and there was just so much purple dot, the purple dots, they were everywhere. We were stuffing pockets full of items. They had like 2 or 3 Camtonos. We snatched everything we could, those like water buckets that was, I don't remember what their purpose was, but they were lootable items. We take a bunch of stuff back and dump it at the Imperial base, but the Camtonos, we took one of them back to the cantina, and we're in this dark corner of the cantina trying to get it open, and this other Mandalorian comes up and was like, where'd y'all get that? Or not, yeah. And we were like, don't worry about it. It's not Imperial business. Leave us alone. He's like, okay. He's like, well, out of character, I'm just going to let you know, that's not one of the game Camtonos. That's one of the, that's somebody's personal Camtono. And we're like, oh, yeah, oops. And he's like, don't worry. If you just go and put it back, he's like, I won't say anything, and you'll be good. And we're like, okay. So we ended up having to sneak back into the Mandalorian Conclave and like quietly put this Camtono back and dipped out, and it was just so fun. And none of the Mandos said anything about it day 2, so I guess he kept his word. He didn't tell anybody about it. But they ended up coming back and stealing everything that we stole back from them like early that day, because ambition's toll, man. The Mandalorians were up our butt like the entire time. If it wasn't the Bolivo attacking us from the woods, it was the Mandos attacking us from the town, and that's like the majority of our fight. But that little night raid and almost getting caught trying to split off from our official duties, it was just so much fun. Like on our trip home in that RV, that's all anybody could talk about was that, and I think that caught everybody involved. We were all hooked on the event from that on. It was so fun.
Right on. Now, there is a quick question for you, Mark. In the future, will there be anything to connect the player's chain code to their character names so we can actually identify people using it?
So that was actually a feature this last event. Chris had the skirmish guys whip up some custom code for the skirmish box, and the Imperials had set up a toll road down in the valley at that kind of like overhanging Connex zone right outside the Mandalorian area. And there was a custom coded skirmish box that the Imperials would take your chain code and tap it on the box, and it would light up with your faction. So you could actually get ID'd, and it would give away what faction you were assigned to. And I think Chris is going to try to work that into more stuff in the future, where it's not just I'm carrying a skirmish box. I think he's going to try to like hide it into some kind of ID checker or something. But that is something that we're looking to do in the future.
Right on. I think that's one of the coolest parts of the event too, is just it's always evolving, always changing, always improving. It really impressed me, going back to what got us hooked. What just impressed me was the level of ingenuity that it feels like everyone really brings to the event, especially the admin team. It's like, wow, Chris, he blew my mind the first time when I was going through his YouTube channel. He's like, here's the bounty fob tracker I made. And I was like, this is really cool. And just the way that he and everyone involved can take simple concepts and simple technology and stretch it to the things we want to do with it is just awesome. So that's another thing that really just hooks so well, is how this event grows and changes and evolves and improves constantly. And then there was another question we're just going, if y'all want to do the keep questions after the question format, we can keep this up, or if there's anything else y'all want to talk about in particular, we can move on to that.
I'm good with questions.
The silence means more
I'm
questions.
good with questions.
Got it.
If
right.
there's anybody in the Discord attendance that wants to come up and actually ask a question in person, we can do that as well. You can raise your hand and we can bring you up.
Ooh, that's playing with fire.
It
But
is.
first,
You have to behave,
I'll,
though.
have this question. Yeah. First we'll ask this question. What's a piece you have added to your kit that has become absolute favorite part of your kit, and or what piece of gear have you gotten that you've used whenever they come without? So what's something you've added to your kit that's essential? And I think this is a great question to ask when we have one person from like every step of the, like, we have our rebel, we have our unaffiliated, we have our empire, we have our Mando. So what's something that everyone here is just like
I will say
best edition, can't leave without it?
it is this HPA shot shell adapter for the AAP. It feels much more immersive swapping out little canisters out of your blaster than it does doing like Glock magazine changes. And it's just made it's made the gun so much more reliable. I got a ad on YouTube for our background music. Gotta mute that real quick. It just makes the whole blaster experience a little more immersive, where I'm not feeling like I'm doing real world magazine swaps.
Right.
And that's mine. I'm really enjoying this right now.
Right on.
Say mine's pretty easy. It's not quite as cool as that at all, but mine's a minigun, my rotary blaster, because I can't see anything. So when I can rotary blast things, it helps out whenever things get hairy.
Right on. Hey, you know, a good blaster, you can't doubt it. And you know, ditto on the shot shells. Those things are awesome. Mr. Arthur Lesta, Perla director, and you know, being an NPC, it's a little different, but
Yeah.
it matters.
A piece that was fun for me, especially being corporate stuff at Echoes Resolve, was I had my chain code in one of those little clear containers on the retractable.
Oh, I think we lost your audio there, Arthur.
Sorry.
We've casted
Should be
too
working.
There
long.
we go. Now we got
There
you
we go.
back. We got you back.
Should be working.
So we heard
Alright,
the
nothing
lanyard with
changed
the
anyway.
retracted, and then you faded out into black.
Yeah, the lanyard retractable. I had a little card in the back there, so it looked like it was an official, like, Perla ID sort of looking thing. And so when I went to skirmish boxes, I just whip this thing out and swipe it like I was, you know, like a worker at a factory or a secure facility. It just felt cool, even though it didn't do anything special. Just adding that little bit to the character, or pulling it out, checking on like the skirmish boxes, or why is this one green? That's not good. Turn it back to purple for Perla. Move on with life in the town. Stuff like that was kind of cute. Just having the business card thing and the clipboard and checking off stuff like that was great fun. Oh, the stampers, that was fun. We didn't use them as well as we thought we would, but being able to just like a corporate stamp, click on a paper that said Perla approved. Yeah, that was a fun piece of kit. That's just part of building the story. It wasn't anything that added to quality of life, but it was a great, story addition that went with the character. So
Right on. That's awesome. I feel like I have a million answers to this question. You know, good boots, good iPro, a DT Blasterworks blaster kit. I don't care if my gun sucks so long as it looks cool, but I think the one I really want to go with is this, if I can get to show up on camera. It is a phone case data pad. So anytime I need to pull my phone out at the event, I have my phone in here, and there are pictures of me just scrolling on a data pad, and I think that is just so fun because it takes something so mundane as checking a text message or scrolling through TikTok while you're dead, and makes even that feel immersive in a really awesome way. I ordered this off Etsy for like $60 for anyone that's curious, and they will custom size it to fit your phone, and you can ask them to leave holes in the back to take photos with. I did not do that, but I'm gonna do it myself here soon. So that's probably my answer. And now we have a lot more questions in the chat, but we do have people also raising their hands asking to speak and ask their question.
Do we dare let Sloan talk?
Sloan
I
dipped
don't
out,
know.
but Chef is here. So
Lord
Oh,
Chef
Chef,
was
Chef,
first.
real
yeah.
quick, don't turn your camera on because I don't want to have somebody show something they shouldn't have. So just come up and
Don't say curse
yeah,
words.
keep it PG-13 at the maximum. But you have the invite. I
how do we
accepted his
enter?
invite. He just has to. Yeah,
Oh.
there we go.
Gonna do the thing.
Yeah, you're up here. We can hear
There you are.
Awesome. Hey, what's up, dude?
What's going on?
How's it going, man?
Hey, no question. I just wanted to say I am just so proud of y'all. Y'all keep up the great work what you're doing. It was a pleasure meeting everybody and doing the thing. You know, thank you for the shout outs and everything. We just, this has been really cool. It's been a really awesome May 4th. You know, I hope
Yeah.
y'all are having a great one as well. And just thank y'all.
Yeah,
Right.
and
man.
you were
Thank
the
you. Thank
the
you and all
Imperial
the
cook
players.
with the Scout Trooper guys, right? Is that who you were?
Yeah, dude.
There you go. That was funny. We had an Imperial janitor at the last couple events, and then we had an Imperial cook at this one. It was hilarious.
Man, I was so close to when I got called out for that during the briefing, being like, "No soup for you." But like, I was like, it's my first time. I was just really, I've never done anything like that before. So I was really just trying to like observe and just, see what was going on. And dude, I'm so hooked. It is so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, while we have you, hold on. This is perfect. So this was your first event, right?
Yeah, dude.
2 questions. Answer them quickly if you can.
I'll do my best.
What drew you to the event, and then what was the moment that made you think I'm coming back?
Okay, all right. So what drew me to the event was my buddy Corliss. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna go do this thing on airsoft," and I was like, "I don't do airsoft," and he was like, "Well, it's Star Wars," so I was like, "I like Star Wars,"
Ooh.
and so I was set. So we drove from Auburn, Alabama, 12 hours to go to the event, and it was worth every mile. What like set me onto the thing? Just instantly getting there. Everybody was so nice, so cool. Like, like y'all were saying earlier, hey, I'm a nerd, you're a nerd, we're all nerds. Let's just nerd out. And just, going, it was just so much fun meeting everybody and doing everything. And I appreciate sorry, I'm stuttering, the professionality of it. And just, I can't wait to help us as the Empire do bigger and better things.
Right on. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Well,
Glad
thank
to hear
y'all.
it.
I really appreciate y'all.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right. That's a great first volunteer speaker.
Yeah, I don't even think he brought a blaster
if we
to
get
the
any
event.
more-
I think he was just here, just vibing with his friends. Man, it was pretty cool.
I know. We did
You
get a
walked around with
comment
a cup.
saying
Yeah,
that
did the
yeah,
ladle.
if he deflects BBs with the
Yeah.
cup, they don't count.
Yeah.
So, and also the label can kill you. So be wary.
Sloan's back.
If we get any more hand raises,
Sloan,
we'll get
come
those.
on up,
Izzy.
man. Raise your hand again. You wanted to say something.
He's got 10 seconds before I ask this question that was asked in the YouTube chat.
Sloan, hurry! There he is. Invite to
There he
speak.
is. Get him in here. If he's not in the accent, hang up on
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Ban him from the server. In all honesty.
He's from the server.
What do you want? I put my hand down. I didn't have a question anymore.
Your question still stands.
Think of one.
All right. Well, Major Tullivan, lovely to see you, sir. Arthur, I hope you know that all the crap I gave you was in character purely. You did a fantastic job. My question is, who's your favorite Imperial and why? It's me, obviously.
Does Betty count?
I mean, Betty signs up for Imperial. Yeah. I think it's Betty.
Betty's
Yeah,
not
Betty-
a person. You can't do this to me. Betty's not a person.
Said Imperial.
Uh,
He didn't say person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I thought Thel
Well,
Lillian
that's-
was pretty cool.
That's splitting hairs a little bit. Hang on, I'm gonna go get her.
Darkstar's a nice guy to talk to.
Yeah. Gets a little spicy in the server, but
That,
it's
no,
all. It's
you
all
take
for
Darkstar
entertainment
should not
purposes.
even be up for consideration after what he put me through. No.
How many other
No.
Imperials can I name before I get to Sloan? The good Colonel himself, Captain Stern. He's awesome.
They look oddly alike.
Uh,
Yeah, it's kind of concerning.
Yeah, don't question it. The medical officer. The medical officer was really cool.
Because they're doing a podcast.
I can multitask, but I was listening to the podcast earlier.
All right. Here's Betty. You can tell her why she's your favorite Imperial.
Betty never talks back.
Best kit, best
Gives me
roleplay,
granola bars too.
best comedic timing. Dude, best comedic timing. Sloan, you have a moment in one of your videos where something kind of ridiculous happens and the camera pans over and Betty's just standing there staring at the camera. And I think I died laughing for a solid 5 minutes straight.
She does that quite often. I can,
Yeah.
even without facial expressions, I can sense what she's feeling. I can feel the look
Right.
of disdain in that box.
Very, very expressive
Well,
Tupperware. Very expressive Tupperware.
Very.
So this wasn't
Well,
your
one
first
quick
event,
story.
but this was your first one of our LARP events. So
LARP event.
Husky, if you want to
Yeah.
go ahead and read off
I just lost my
those two
camera.
questions you gave him, because I don't remember them word for word.
Gotta reconnect my camera. It just died. Yeah. So, what drew you to the event the first time? And then what was the moment where you thought, this is awesome, I'm coming back?
Is this a question for me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, what drew me to it the first time, quite honestly, Star Wars was on the way out for me. And I was like, I'm getting rather sick of this franchise. So it was kind of on the way out. What drew me to it was just the fact that it was so close. We live in East Texas, so I think 878, where we do Rhaegor, is like 45-minute drive for us. So I actually saw it pop up on 878's website, and I was like, hey, this looks kind of fun. Let's go out and see what it's all about. So I got my ticket, and then my sister was looking at it, and she goes, hey, that would be kind of fun. I said, yeah, she's kind of into Star Wars, and she says, what if I went as a gonk droid? And I was like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. And it just kind of snowballed, and we ended up building the whole suit in a couple of months and heading out there. So it was really just convenience for the two of us. But we were hooked on it almost immediately. The moment where I remember feeling the most immersed, because even though it was a Battlefront event, they were starting to introduce RP into the Battlefront events. And I just remember immediately having this awesome chemistry with Loki. I mean, anyone who's interacted with Loki knows that he is the dirty, rotten
This
scoundrel.
guy.
And we interacted so well together. And I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it my job to ruin this man's day as much as possible. Like, I'm just going to go after him. I'm going to be the villain in his story, and I'm going to be that Imperial thorn in his back. And that's what I did. We were both going after this treasure hunt that they had. But what really kicked off the immersion is there was a school bus on the field. And I was just kind of wandering the field, working on something else, and I saw someone dip into this school bus. And I was like, I wonder what's going on in there. So I walked into the school bus, and I come in, and I happen to walk into the middle of some covert meeting between Loki and several other people. And as soon as I walked in, it's like, well, now I can't walk out, because that would just look dumb. So I was like, I've got to play this moment up. So I don't remember exactly how the conversation went down, but it was very dramatic with me pacing up the hall of this school bus and Loki at the end with a blaster pointed at me. And I was like, oh my God, this is playing out like something from the bloody movies. This is amazing. And I've been chasing that high ever since. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Sloan. Good to talk to you. Hope to see you at the next
Corporal.
event. Sure, whatever you say. All right, we got TB504 requesting to speak, so
Yeah, we'll bring him on.
let's get TB504 in here.
And I will say a note on Rhaegor real quick. That Battlefront event. It wasn't the biggest event we've hosted. It was actually kind of very small, but was an extreme success. The amount of first timers that we brought in and the amount of people that just stayed was amazing. That event it was so good for recruiting to the community. All right, TB504. We're gonna go to you now.
Oh, hey. Okay. I was like, well, hey, this is one of the scout troopers. Just saying, hey.
Right
that
on.
was with Chef. It's a lot of fun. One of my questions was, in terms of expansion to events, how close to the southeast are y'all planning on going? Are y'all doing stuff further west? Like, what's the plan for expansion if there is one, or is it just kind of fly by the seat of the pants? Just kind of curious. In expansion.
there is always a desire to expand. I don't think we can personally talk too much on it. That's much more of like a Chris thing. But there's always a huge desire to expand. You know, we merged within a event down in Florida. So if you want, you know, southeast, that's pretty southeast. It was in Lithia, I think, which is outside of. I don't remember. I know it's an hour south of Orlando. So we were there. We got to merge with them, and that really added to our repertoire. But there's always a desire to expand because that's one of the first questions people ask when they join is, when are y'all doing an event near me? And I'm sure if Quist was here, he would tell you that he would love to host an event anywhere so long as he personally wasn't having to oversee every single one. Just yesterday, one of the other admins and myself went to a field hosting a Star Wars flavored event with the kind of goal of just feeling out the player base, putting, you know, trying to get our fingers on the pulse of the community and see, hey, could this be a potential spot to expand? You know, could North Carolina be up next for hosting an event? And that's something that I think a lot of us are always doing, is just saying, could this location work? If we went here, would we get a player base? So, you know, while we can't say too much and we definitely can't give you a straight answer, the desire is always there and we're always trying.
Okay. Yeah. I also wanted to put out there, when we rolled up, you know, after 12 hours, delirious from all the driving, as fun as that was, uh, it was really cool to just see everybody was so welcoming. We were that was a really nice surprise to see, because we didn't, again, though, we're from the Southeast. We don't know anybody up here. So it was a pleasure to see that. It was definitely well worth I have it in my truck. I was driving for 24 hours in my truck to get up there and back. So it was well worth it. So it was a lot of fun. It made my whole year, if anything else.
Right on. Well, thank you for the question. You know, glad to have you guys. You guys, the Scout Troopers, you guys were awesome.
Yeah,
I'll
y'all,
say it a
y'all are
million
some awesome
times.
first timers. We had a lot of really good first timers these last couple events. And I will say, if you really want an event in your area, go talk to your local field owners and let them know that we exist and that we travel. And if you can get a field owner that is actually interested in it, send them to one of the admins and we'll link them to Chris. And we can start the conversations on that.
Alabama has great spots. I know for a fact Alabama has great spots.
That weather's just brutal out
Yeah.
there, man. We
I
gotta
just
pick
think-
the right time of year.
Oh, we did a little event at the library this week for the kids, for the kids library, and we were dying. At least I was.
Yeah, what's y'all's humidity? We
Yeah.
just had a
Those
tornado in
videos
my
were worth
area,
it,
and the humidity's like 4,000% right now.
I was at work the other day, and the real feel, which is not the actual temperature, hit 105.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep. All right. Well, I appreciate it. This has been
Thank
great.
you. Thank you.
Much
See you at the
TB
next
504. Glad to have you. All right. If we have, well, we got one. We got another one requesting to speak. We have Ajax the Imperial.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, Ajax the Imperial.
Hello. I don't know if this was stated during the YouTube part because it was lagging, but what is your favorite field and why?
That's a good question. Are you asking just the ones we've played at or just ever?
The ones we've played at for GCW. I should have specified.
That's an easy answer. The Rock. I love The Rock, dude. It chews people up and spits them out, but it's the brutality
gonna
makes
have to
it so
disagree.
rewarding. I'm sure you would,
Like,
Mr. Mandalorian.
The
I'm
Rock's
sure you
so
would.
cool, but yeah, it's not friendly to run around in for any amount of time. But
It is for
and
rebels.
honestly, like in Mouston, I just think that the size of the city is just really neat. I mean, the Rock's put in a lot of work, so they have improved tremendously as well. So it's like pretty much on par. But just the first two times playing at Mouston, it's just there's so much city you can just like exist in and do stuff, and also being on flat grounds nice sometimes.
Yeah, I'll say out of the ones that we've been to, Mouston, just a combination of the altitude that it's at, the fact that it's flat, and the density of the city, makes for a good roleplay environment. But man, it's so easy to breathe up there. Being from Texas, the altitude difference, the oxygen's so thick up there. It's nice. You can just run for days. But it is definitely easy on the feet. The Rock, the town, I think, is lacking. The area around the town is awesome, but it does beat you down. You are tired at the end of the day. And Rhaegor is really solid. I think it just needs a better town. It's kind of in that middle ground of the area around the town is really diverse, but the town, it needs work. But Mouston is really solid on the town.
Bad Demosthenes. You got the diversity, and it's all close, but just far enough apart that you're not on top of each other all the time. So you can have the Rebs in the woods and the Empire at their base, and they're close enough they can get out, do their thing, go home. But they are still far enough that they're not always in conflict. And the density of the town is great. The Rock has beautiful scenic overlooks. Being up by the canteen, you can look down into the town. That's cool. You can look down into the valley, into the fishing village. That's awesome. It has its own thing. If you were to bring some of that market square and make it a little more denser, that could be something. But it's got its own play style. So I mean, there's pros and cons to there. But yeah, my personal preference, yes, is about it's a little bit closer and it has other things. But those fields have their own things there, and I haven't been to Rieger yet, so.
I got to change my answer. Lithia Prime, Florida. I know no one from GCW was really there except for most of the Imperial Command team. Man, what a field! I genuinely hope we do that event again and more people come because that field is phenomenal. It's flat, so you guys, you weenies, you whiners, wearing armor,
People in gear.
People in gear won't get murdered by it. It's the foliage is the closest thing you're ever gonna see to Scarif. They have a really awesome, albeit a bit small, town built with like multiple multi-story structures. There's a fort out in the woods. It's such a dynamic and such a lovely field. I hope we go back because that was so far one of my favorites. Thank you for the question, Ajax. Glad to have you. Thank you for being here.
One thing I think makes my answer kind of change is Mouston and the Rock. The ticks were so bad. So, I think I like the Texas field a little more. There was no ticks. I don't know about the Florida field. I don't know if Florida's got ticks really bad, but my God, I got bit on the arm. And, I literally watched the tick walk, and I tried to grab him, and he bit me, and I pulled him off immediately. That mark was there up until last week. And it itched so bad. That was awful. The ticks were everywhere. I'm not a fan of those guys. So
The first year it wasn't like that, though.
In Battlefront, the Battlefront event, there was none there. But man, something about, I guess, the time of year, the weather, this last event, they were bad. And technically, Wisconsin's ticks should be worse. But Mouston, or the Rocks, man, they were rough this year. They were all over my gear. They were in my car for days after I got home. They were bad. Bad.
Dang. All right, we got Vector Kun from the Perla Security Corp raising his hand. Let's get him in here.
Hey guys.
Welcome.
And it's Coon, but
sorry.
No worries. It's all made up names anyway. So from a planning perspective, I was watching Mr. Arthur Lester, the director, in the role playing side, doing a lot with quests that interacted with Perla, and I know that really kept him busy. And then in my first event last year at Fate's Grass, just kind of seeing how much how all these kind of interwoven and overlapping quests, how much is when it goes into developing a quest for a given event, how much that is just a faction leader or admin coming up with an idea and running with it, how much that comes down from the lore master that is Raincloud. What goes into planning the quest lines that the different factions have to try to carry out?
Honestly, that's a
I think we need
question almost
Raincloud in here.
entirely for Raincloud. Yeah.
I will say it feels like it's changing a little bit, and we're seeing a lot more involvement from our factions. I'm sure Gadge, you probably did a lot of the Enclave ones, so, and I'm sure Mr. Arthur Lester did. Did Perla have their own missions, or were y'all
So
just pure?
yeah, we'll touch on that quick. There is we're currently in that transition where we're trying to get faction leaders more involved in their quests. Never exclude them. We've just haven't seen them maybe for what do they want to do.
Are you?
So
Is
one
he
of the areas
speaking
that
up
have
a
been
little
His
bit?
reception is pretty bad right now.
Yeah, I think we've got some signal issues.
Yeah.
Arthur, you might, if you want to maybe cut your video off, see if that boosts your signal a bit.
Oh,
Because you were full
any better
robot
now?
there on us. Oh, I can hear you better.
Okay. Well, nothing's changed for me being you, but oh well. But yeah, previously we've had a lot of Raincloud writing stuff, and then the rest of us adjust just enough to fit into our stuff, or double checking that everything we want to do fits in with his master plan. And now we're transitioning more into enabling the faction leaders to decide what they want to do. We've never excluded it previously; we just haven't tapped that resource. So like with he and the rest of the crew, what do you want, and then to do for your to do really, and then working into the greater story. With the Pearl stuff, had a couple of Pearl stuff like info gathering that did come to fruition just because we were so
Arthur's a
still
droid
mentally
now.
taxed. I actually delegate a little bit more. I got a little more.
I think we're still getting signal problems,
Yeah,
Arthur.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
We were getting some of it, but it started getting pretty bad there at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Gadge, do you want to try and speak on answering that question from the Mando point of view?
So, I mean, what we're doing is obviously a sub faction. We're not pushing like main plot, but we did have a lot of our missions were directed at where we're going with one of the with one of the sub faction plot points, and then also we are kicking back to some things that had happened before. So there is some internal layers that have kind of built into that to an extent. But for the most part, it's what we've dealt with so far has kind of just been sort of the tip of the iceberg, just getting started into the Mandalorian factions or sub factions plot line. But yeah, it is things that are both reaching forwards and things that happened in the past. So there is some lore that's built in there.
Raincloud said a few things in the YouTube chat because he's really the guy for a lot of that stuff. He said it is changing some, and I'm thankful for it, referring to the fact that it's being lifted off his shoulders, partially at least. The growth has been insane. The admins have been very overloaded, as well as with herding the cats. Yep. And then Artie, you need a new voice box because apparently you're a droid now. So, Vector, thank you for your question. I'm sorry, I don't think we could answer it as adequately as we would like to, but it's a really good question nonetheless.
Yeah, but it's still like it's one of the pieces of the game that make it really unique and a lot of fun to play in. And look forward to Battlefront in Moscow this October.
Big things planned. All right, thank you so much, Vector. Shout out Raincloud. Shout out Raincloud. All right, we got Ensign Thel Quillian of the Imperial ISB. All right, Ensign Thel Quillian, are you with us?
Going once. Going twice.
Going twice.
And sold. Let's bring up Darkstar.
All right. Mike messed up. That's all right. If you want to type out a question, feel free to. If you want to try again here in a second, feel free to. I think next up, I think we had someone in between Darkstar and Thelquillian.
It's the only person with his hand up right now.
Sergeant Thane Darkstar, welcome.
Welcome. First of all, it's good to see you guys again and talk to you guys again since the previous event. I want to make that clear. Last event was amazing. Thank you guys for your participation, making all that work.
Thank
I
you.
do
for
have a
being there.
question. So is there anything planned for like maybe the future of GCW? Maybe something after the Battle of Yavin?
If I say anything, Raincloud will kill me. So
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I mean,
Ask a different question. Don't ask for spoilers.
No, I'm just wondering
I mean-
if like we've gotten to that point where like we're almost past like Battle of Yavin and that kind of stuff.
This event is going to continue until people stop showing up. So hopefully our grandchildren will be attending.
Yeah, I was actually
as for
thinking
now, I'm
about
sure-
this exact thing the other
Yeah.
day. Like, what are we gonna do
Yeah.
when the event gets to that chronological point where we start getting past the original trilogy? And
It has been discussed, but if we say anything, Raincloud will personally appear in our rooms.
yeah, he's
and
all capsing
end our
right now
lives,
on the
so-
YouTube chat. No spoilers.
Yeah. So, what's
So,
going to
good
happen
question,
is
but
the
can't be
timeline's
answered.
going to reset and will be a High Republic event. So that's the totally official canon answer. You heard it here first. Start working on those Sith Empire kids.
And then after that, we're going to the Clone Wars. So everybody's going to have to get plastic surgery to look like a clone. Without it, you won't be able to buy a
Yeah.
ticket.
I don't know if
Sorry.
I can afford that
Well,
right
no
now.
ticket for you then.
Well,
Sorry.
Actually, I lied. We're just
Well-
getting rid of GCW, and this is Battlestar Galactica now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Everyone,
I see what
everyone
it is.
go, everyone go buy that.
I'd rather
stuff.
I'd
Or we
rather
can
do
do
Stargate.
Stargate.
I was
Everyone
gonna
get
say I'd rather
P90.
do Stargate. Yeah.
Everyone get a
I
P90.
get that like chrome paint to do all my
Yeah.
armor. So
Yeah.
Why don't we just do a Star Trek
When
one?
you go back.
Star Trek's
No,
for nerds.
no Star
Get
Trek.
out of here. You're,
Someone said Firefly RP. We'll do
Okay,
Firefly.
okay.
Yeah.
Firefly.
All right. Thank you, Thane Darkstar.
bringing up
Ensign
Star
Phil
Trek.
Quillen
You're in the wrong territory.
requesting
Bringing up
this
Star
to speak
Trek.
again.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Can we ban
Yeah,
him?
this is the wrong hood, man. You came to the wrong part of town to be bringing up Star Trek.
Yeah. Raincloud said it'll be freedom for him. That's what it means. When we hit the Battle of Yavin, he's released. He gets to go home.
Just floats into the sky and turns into pure light.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's give Thel Quillen another
Can't let
chance.
it go.
Yeah.
He's back.
All right. Come on, I believe in you. You can do it. No. All right. Well, in the meantime, we're gonna go to
Wipe it out.
we'll go to some of the chat questions that were asked earlier. Question: most of you are pretty much locked into your character/factions now that you are admins and whatnot. But what would your top pick to play as an alternative character faction be? Oh, that's a good question. I think. So if you can't do what you
I
are
hope
now,
not.
you know, what would you do instead? I know Arthur Lester, you're an NPC, so I'm really excited to hear what you would do instead.
Provided you can actually hear me, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, we
Good?
can hear you. And
All
hear
right,
you now.
wonderful. We'll see. I decided to answer some text from the wife, and everything fixed itself. So, anyways,
How about that?
She was DDoSing you.
right? Yep. So, if I hadn't been roped in, if I hadn't been roped into being an NPC, I probably would have gone Imperial because I mean, you just do the thing, like get on program, do the thing. But being an NPC, my personal policy is I have a different character for each location, and this allows me to help tell more story. And my characters will never cross locations so that things don't get goofy. And so when you see my face on Moston, I'm Artie, unless something happens to Artie, and I change from there. I am Arthur on Bolivar until something happens to that character. My characters are not single life characters like Raincloud, which is a super cool concept. Sometimes it sucks because he dies every single time, but it's super cool. If I ever go to Rieger, I'll have a different person for there. So that's my policy on different characters and different factions. So I'm here to serve the story. I've been doing that in the unaffiliated category, but I am totally on board with doing something in Empire or something else, or maybe doing a droid kit someday and making people, see how they react to that. So that's how I do that one.
Right on. All right, Gadge, you can no longer be a Mandalorian. They don't exist in Star Wars. What are you doing?
Thoroughly defunded.
I would be upset if I never could be one, but I wouldn't be mad at all because I like to play different characters. I don't know,
Right.
at the last time we were in Mousen, I was running around in this stuff. I
Yeah,
was
me
doing
too.
some shenanigans and peddling Rhodian rations, just causing general chaos out on the battlefield. People running around. I was just kind of yelling at them to stop fighting, come to the cantina. But I think that if I was not going to play in the Mandalorian sub faction, if I had to pick one of the two, I'm definitely gonna go with Rebel because, I mean, let's be real, nobody really likes the Empire. They just do it because they have to. But I actually have Rebel gear to an extent. I've just never put it on because I've been busy doing other stuff. It's nothing crazy, but
I would love to see Rebel Gadge for an event.
the one good thing is I'm normally wearing a bucket, so it's my face is generally not seen all that much, so it helps with a little bit of character anonymity. Yeah, that's a word in there somewhere. But yeah, I think mostly what I like to do outside of the Mandalorian stuff is just kind of fill in the gaps wherever need be. I like being just a character that can kind of go in and sew a quest somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think more towards the NPC stuff is where I'd have the most fun.
Right on. Real quick, to harken back to Darkstar's question, I see in the chat someone said that the event ends with us marrying the two faction leaders. So
and the current fan fiction
GCW ends
is
and
Ben
we
and Justin
yeah.
getting married.
Yeah.
So that's hilarious.
Yeah. And then GCW ends, big celebration, a big ceremony, and then we all go home. All right, Mark, you can't be Empire anymore. What are you doing?
You know, I really want to do a Tusken kit and build a really nice slug thrower. Yeah, I saw that. It's like what Cal did with his 2 tubes blaster. That thing's really cool. He pretty much built the gun that I've been wanting to build for a long time. But I think a Tusken would be really cool. It's just a big 3D printed helmet, man. It looks like it'd be so much fun to just run around and scream nonsense at people and shoot at them for using technology.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't answer this question fairly because I swap factions between Rebel and Empire as needed. So if I couldn't be Rebel, I would go Empire because it's a lot of fun. If I couldn't go Empire, I'd go Rebel because I love it. So for me, I would join the Hutts. I had the idea of I couldn't do the armor. I'm a little too medium speed, some drag without Mando armor on. I think if you put Mando armor on me, I would just lay down in the grass somewhere and let that be the end.
That's the joke. You can't lay down in armor.
But I would.
It doesn't allow you.
Oh yeah. Dude, I would love to do like a Weequay alien, go full pirate, join the Hutts, and just have fun messing around with Athens and them.
I was gonna say, what unaffiliated would you go to? But yeah, you're gonna be go be a Hutt. Yeah, it's a great place to be.
Yeah, being a Hutt would be awesome.
Outlaws.
All
Chaos and anarchy.
So good. Thank you for the question, Meme Man Mox. All right, now we have Ensign Thalquillian for the 3rd time. What's your question, dude?
All right, can you actually hear me?
Yeah, we can. Right on.
All right, I'm not good with this computer stuff, so I just moved to my phone. All right. So there were a bunch of lone Imperials just randomly walking into the town willy-nilly when they were, clear rebels with insignias and everything, and they just walked in there expecting not to be shot. Is there going to be anything to actually change that?
Shoot them. Follow your ROE. I'm a rebel officer telling you right now. If you see rebels in insignias openly walking in town out in the open, shoot them. I'm mad about that as you are. Shoot them.
It's not just that. There were just solo imps walking into town into a pile of rebels thinking they weren't going to get shot.
That's a two-tiered issue there. Like I said, if you're going to join the Empire, you should expect to stick with your squad, at the very least.
Yeah.
And shoot rebels.
So something we're gonna,
but hey, follow your
ROE. Experiment with at this Planetary Garrison Rhaegor, this next Texas event coming up later this year, is we're gonna experiment with some like set in stone scheduled main events. That way, everybody knows when and where they're happening, and in between, you can go do your own thing. That was a big complaint with some of the Imperials at Ambition's Toll, and I've just heard in general sense is, we know we signed up to be a part of the standing army, but when we have to stand around and guard a point for 2-3 hours, and then by the time we get some free time to go to the shops, all the blasters are gone, all the unaffiliated and rebels bought up all the blasters, and there's just barely any grenades left, or just whatever. They have all these credits they made in payroll, and they didn't get a chance to spend them. So we're gonna experiment with that, like scheduled events throughout the day. That way you know when you have time to go and break off, and you and your team, you and your squad can go and hit up the blaster shop early on, or the upgrade shop, instead of some of the complaints. The last event I heard is this was my first event, didn't have any time to go to the upgrade shop, so I'm running around as a starter character, and all these rebels are either returning players or they had more free time to go hit up their upgrades. They had more grenades on them, or they were able to use full auto, and that's something we're going to try to combat.
Right on.
Yeah, and as ISB, I mean, I really didn't have that issue of just walking into town getting shot, because I had a cloak over my gear with a different hat on. So it worked. And then I did have a different question, following up with the chain code thing I asked earlier. So the skirmish box just shows what faction they're a part of. However, I know, like, some people have Imperial warrants out on them, or they might possibly in the future. Now, you can go up to someone, check their chain code, and then not realize who they are, because there's no really way to figure that out without asking them. And of course, they're not going to tell you, "Oh yeah, I'm a wanted criminal."
Well, I think that plays into the heat system.
I mean, even like
once we get it working properly.
Yeah. I'm hoping
there were
introduction
even people who had,
ISB, you guys can kind of build a database of like known criminals. I think that would be awesome. But I do think it's a careful balance, because like if someone took a mission to ambush an Imperial patrol 3 events ago, and they're still shoot on sight now, like that gets a little rough. But I think like you ISB guys, like this is your opportunity to say, at least in a role play aspect, like, hey, we have a database where we know this person's a rebel agent. We know this person cannot be trusted. Again, it's a delicate balance where you don't want to go too far, but I think there could be a lot of cool stuff done with that. And it does require engagement on the player's part outside of the event, because you can have this database, but it doesn't matter if the ISP guy doesn't check it. So
yeah, there's a fine line that could become very power gamey. I think the natural, hey, I know you did this like yesterday or earlier today, you're in the same outfit and I recognized you. I think that's probably going to be the more natural way to handle that. Like I said, a database that spans across events could get kind of power gamey, especially if somebody's not really playing the same character, but you see their face, and you're like, oh, that's the guy from the list, blast him. And he's like, yo, I'm playing a different guy this event. They could get kind of confusing. And it's kind of also circumventing the heat system. Yeah. So I think the heat system is really what you're looking for. It's going to keep that, relevance to the event. And then obviously you're just recognizing somebody. Like you saw Husky do something yesterday. He's in the same outfit. You're going to recognize him.
Yeah, it could be interesting to have a special sort of heat that's tied to your chain code for an event. I'm not quite sure how we'd go about doing that, but I think that could be really awesome, especially for you Imperial guys. If I'm not wearing any heat bands, but somehow, some way, someone was able to add 1 heat to my chain code that I can't just go run and get rid of. But every event that still refreshes and is cleared. So if I go do something crazy, start of day 1, do a big mission, do something, and I say, as I'm on my way, you just got robbed by John Husky, you slumps. Okay, well, add heat to John Husky's chain code. I think that could be a really cool idea. But that's something we'll have to speculate and talk on more. But I think you do raise a very interesting question, and something that definitely could be looked at and worked on.
Yeah, I just find it strange that we're over here checking people's chain codes, but when you actually check the chain code, it's like, yep, you got a chain code.
I think at previous events we had someone that had an actual roster, but it's something we're always trying to make work, and at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the resources we have available. But
I know.
Thank you very much, Duckwillen. It took 3 tries, but it was very worth it. Glad to have you.
I know for the.
To say, also, it's a good time for improv. Just make stuff up on people's chain codes and roll with it.
That's a really good point. If you saw someone throw a grenade and you're checking their chain code an hour later, it's like, oh, I see here you have a suspicion of terrorist acts. I'm taking you in, or just
illegal purchase.
I will say, if you're going to do that, at least do it with things that actually happened, because that gets kind of in the power game territory. Don't make it up. Be like, hey, like you saw this person do something earlier, dress that up. You know, dress up the whole "I saw you throw a grenade."
Or you could even do it like, you know, if you heard, you know, the other Imperials were like, man, this dude just, you know, stole our whatever. Okay, then next when you see that person, you're like, hey, weren't you the guy? You know, I'm sitting here and it says suspicion of theft of Imperial property. What's this about? You know, come with me and ask you some questions. I think that's where the role play really comes in.
Yeah.
Real quick, Vector, no, Notoriety does not track game to game officially, but keep in mind your character and what you do stays with you. People remember the stuff you do. So if you become real trigger happy and you get real excitable,
Everybody
and
knows
throw grenades
Loki.
everywhere.
Everybody knows that guy.
Yeah, everyone knows Loki. So if you make a habit of just shooting everyone you see and throwing grenades, people will talk about you outside the event. People will remember that. And next event, I'm not going to let you near me.
Right.
You know.
We are going to start wrapping it up. We have hit our 2-hour mark, so we're
Yep.
not going to bring anybody else up onto the stage.
Ooh.
Any of the speakers here have anything closing that they want to say?
Austin,
Bring your friends.
play the game. Bring your friends. Yep.
Yeah.
Do good
See what we
stuff. Make
have.
cool kit.
Yeah. Yeah, put
If
10% more
if you
effort
had
in
a
your
poor
kit
experience-
every event, and you'll make me happy.
Yeah. Dude, never stop improving. Never stop working. Never get too comfortable. But the flip side of that is don't be afraid to come to the event with what you have. Like our standards for entry, our barrier for entry is low intentionally. You know, we're not asking, if you want to go Empire, we're not asking you to show up full Stormtrooper. We're not asking you to show up full Imperial Army. If you can show up in OD green fatigues, top and bottoms, and maybe have a black belt on, and maybe have the patrol cap, hey, man, we're so glad to have you. How can we help you get to that next level? If you're a rebel and all you've got is a pair of tan cargo pants and like, you know, a green shirt, a button-up preferably, or a collared shirt, or anything really, you know, that's great. Come on out. How can we help you? You know, we have tons of loaner gear, tons of loaner kit. You know, one thing we love is helping people improve, helping people fit into the universe. 'Cause I think everyone wants to look awesome. You know, everyone wants to look at the pictures of themselves and go, dang, I look really cool, and we want to help you get there. So don't ever feel like you're not good enough to come to the event, but the flip side is don't ever stop improving. Don't ever feel like you're done.
Yeah.
We're always improving as well as a game. So
Yeah.
hanging out, even if you had a less than ideal experience once, try it again. We are improving and taking your feedback, so we appreciate what you tell us so we can make
Wow.
the game enjoyable for you.
For the love of God, though, leave your blue jeans, your ball cap, your plate carrier, and fast helmets at home. And
They're not allowed. If you show up, like, for the love of God, when you buy your ticket, check the uniform rules, because when you show up out of uniform, I get to live out the meme. You're out of uniform, soldier. Take off those jeans.
yeah. Where's your power armor?
We do have, we do have a bare minimum, and that is all we ask. That you use
And
that
we
bare
are
minimum.
beginning
But man, well, we
to
got a
enforce our
turnout.
uniform rules a little more every event. These rules have been the same since the beginning. We just haven't been able to, we haven't had the player base. But now that more and more people are showing up, I mean, if these guys from Alabama can whip up, 4 or 5 sets of scout armor, you can throw together some BDUs and a
Dude.
$15 Imperial hat. Come on. You can do it.
I'm seeing a comment in the chat saying the Empire has loaner armor now.
We do. We
That's
have an
awesome.
entire tote of loaner soft parts, and one of our players bought, I think, 4 sets of Kane's or Shay's vac form Imperial armor that he has bought them with the intent of lending them out every event. So there's no excuse.
That's awesome.
And promise you, man, like there was some dudes at the last few events that were already in full OD but were wearing plate carriers. Just lose the plate carrier. This event is not about being the most effective player on the field. You don't need it. You don't need the plate carrier, guys. Just drop it. The fast helmet, you'll look better without a helmet on. I promise you. Just leave the modern stuff at home. And Matrix armor, unless you are like really dressing up that Matrix armor, leave it at home. Gash, I think what your stuff is Matrix armor, right? Is what it's based on? Gaz has done a lot of work to his Matrix armor,
Right now,
and it
I'm
looks
down to
good.
just the chest.
Yeah, it's an okay place to start with if you're going to do a custom paint job and then slowly replace the parts. It's a starting point. Don't show up with just the unpainted black stuff straight out the e-bike box. Come on, guys. Put 10% effort into it, and then slowly replace it with better parts over time. Even Chris started with Matrix armor. Yeah, don't
skill
yeah.
Gadget's
Nerf or nothing is for Gadge only. Nobody else can use Nerf colors.
All right.
There's
Wow.
red in there.
I think we averaged about 20 viewers. So
Let
far.
me look at our
for the first time. That's
stats.
very good.
We peaked out total 96 people on YouTube. Concurrent there's no peak concurrent right now. We have 7, but yeah, our total for YouTube is 96. Actually, I got a chart here. There's nothing. Yeah, there's no sensitive information. If we bring this in over here, yeah, so our peak is 17 concurrent, and in total we had 96.
Right on.
So good stuff, guys.
All right, Mark. Closing remarks. When can people expect another one of these?
The hopes are every Sunday. We're not going to have the same people on every time, but hopefully at least me or Husty will be the common denominator for hosts. I'm gonna get you set up, Husky, so you are able to throw this up if I'm not available. But Sundays, 6:30, 7 Central should be the about starting time. There are going to be times when we can't host, so just bear with us. We're not going to be hosting when we have events live, so sorry. That's not out of the possibility. We could do
live streaming from the phone.
Yeah, we could be like, hey, we're at the admin
cool.
campfire. We're gonna talk. We're gonna do a quick 20-minute brief of what happened today. That's a possibility. I'm not gonna promise it. Sorry.
I'll bring a
cribs
soapbox and a megaphone.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. In person live stream. Yeah. But yeah, Sundays.
It's
6:37.
some of the reporters on here.
Yeah. Well, I want to bring the reporters on so they can kind of go over the things that they saw.
All right.
But thank you guys.
We might bring you on one day, viewer. So keep attending, keep interacting, keep being
We
awesome.
want you for the
I'm closing out
GCW
now.
podcast. Yep. Thank you guys. It was fun. We'll see you on the next one.
Play the outro
Thanks, guys.
music.